The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Scout 6316, 8.8 for 6,000.
Got 6316, North Approach, going to maintain 3,000, I'm 1 for the right.
3,000, Scout 6316.
Redwood 811.
Tyson on Spaced Out Weekend with Skeeter Welhouse. And it's good to have you along for the trip on this Sunday, May 7th, or Monday, May 8th, if you're on the East Coast. We're coming to you live from the magical mystery abode of Uncle Jimbo's cabin, sharing quantum space with the Pacific Northwest and the Desert Southwest, as it does every weekend here on spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, and High Plains Radio Network. We also want to give thanks to our god of guitarness, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. He creates the music that makes us rock on Spaced Out Radio Weekend, and this is the official spacedoutradio.com music. If you are a social media maven, please check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Facebook, you can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. There you can listen to all the shows that happen on the weekend later on in the week if you need to. Tune us in on TuneIn, download our shows from iTunes. We're also on Radio Guide FM, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. If you go to patreon.com, from there we have some very cool offers for you, our listeners. So please check those out. Also, if you want to take part in the show, you'll have to sign in to one of our chat rooms on Spreaker, or on the chat room on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. We offer some decent swag, and it's our opportunity to give back to you. We also have a news section called The Encounter that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. You can check out Dave Scott's latest blog there as well. If you've had an experience you can't explain and you need some help trying to figure it out, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is ready to find out what's going on with you and what happened with you, and of course it is completely confidential. We are experiencers. We respect that your experiences are confidential. That being said, welcome. Tonight I'm going to continue on with talking about the Abduction Studies Conference at MIT that happened in 1992 this weekend. And I was there, and I met my very good Simon there, good friend Simon there, who is still a good friend. This was put on by with the help of Dr. David Pritchard at MIT, who's a physics professor, and Dr. Johnny Mack, who is no longer with us, who did alien abduction research at Harvard University. Last night, I was talking about some of the people who were at the event and some of the things that were discussed, including a definition of what it is to be an abductee, and including some of the things that happened there. Tonight I'm going to go into some more things that happened there. I was one of the abductees who did speak at the conference under my first name. If you know what that is, great. But I talked about the ET vacation, which had to do with how ships work. I had this event today happen, and I don't know if this person is listening, but it illustrated to me the difficulty that abductees have, and it almost becomes a cross-cultural difficulty over time when you are trying to explain what you've seen in an abduction or in an alien-related experience, what you've seen technology do, how you know their technology works, where you've gone in that technology, sometimes to places that are not on Earth in what seems to be less than a second. You end up with this sort of being looked at like you're very weird or something must be wrong with you, and people are very sorry that you believe what you believe. The issue is you don't believe what you believe. You're not believing you've had this experience. In fact, you wouldn't have liked to have had anything to do with the experience. You have experienced the experience. And for those of us who have conscious memories and have had conscious experiences, it becomes very hard to be that person who gets looked at all of a sudden like the alien, because you're having a perfectly normal discussion, as paranormal folks do, about detecting aliens via gravity drives, and somebody is talking in the way back mindset that UFOs are machines, and you're going, no, they're biological beings, and that person is freaking out. You kind of go, well, telekinesis is related to gravity, and then they freak out some more, and you're just going, okay, never mind. Even you, who have been studying this phenomena through MUFON and through looking for ships and through reading what other people write, are not willing to upset your own reality and go into ontological shock due to something an abductee tells you that they have information about from direct experience. Because why? Because it promotes ontological shock. What is ontological shock? It's when your worldview is so challenged that what you're hearing either must be wrong or you must immediately freak out and just dismiss it, because it means that what you've thought, your basis of perception of the world, is incorrect. In other words, ontological shock makes you have to expand your worldview or change your worldview in a way that is uncomfortable to do. So even now today, 25 years later, when we have paranormal shows and we have people on, we have telepaths on, we have people who do remote viewing on, we have other alien experiencers and contactees on, we have amazing healers on. Even now, when you get to the gearheads, you can fry their circuits. I mean, literally, you can watch the smoke come out of their ears. And it's very sad, because we have things as abductees that we can tell the rest of the world that would clear a lot of our aloneness up and clear up a lot of the mystery of how aliens got here and clear up how they do things. But is anybody listening? Oh, geez. I don't know. Are you out there? Well, I hope you are. Tonight I'm going to read a little bit about this, which is perfect for me today because I ended up hitting a brick wall with someone, and I know I did, even though they might not have said it directly. Andrea Pritchard was the editor of the Alien Discussions Proceedings of the Abduction Studies Conference at MIT. She's still alive. I saw her 3 weeks ago. She came to Madrid to visit with Dave Pritchard. And we went to dinner, and it was the loveliest time I have had in such a long time, and I thank them so much for coming to visit. But Andrea wrote her business in the discussions, which was A Reason to Wonder. And this is from Andrea. I'm going to read about a page. Thank you, Andrea, for letting me do this. I hope you're doing this. I apologize. I will apologize later if I can't. But here's what she said. Let's face it. Our society is not geared to deal with alien abductions. How many bosses would believe an employee who says, I'm not my best today, the aliens kept me up all night? How many parents listen when their 3-year-old says, "The man in the closet took me up in the sky last night"? How many friends, therapists, clergymen, doctors, or acquaintances will even consider the remote possibility of what an abductee says is true? So for abductees, one part of their lives, the most amazing, most thought-provoking, the most incomprehensible part, must remain secret and undiscussed. For non-abductees, the first sticking point when considering abductions is, are the aliens real? This question gets complicated, as you will see when you read the proceedings from the conference at MIT. Certainly, it would be more comprehensible if we all could see aliens. Lacking that, if aliens weren't reputed to go walking through bedroom walls, if they couldn't telepathically transmit ideas into and out of people's heads, if they were just bound by the physical and mental laws that seem to bind us, we would all feel happier. But then, as Dave Jacobs points out, it wouldn't be aliens. Many of us, after spinning our wheels on the question of reality, get on to the question of what does it mean if the aliens do exist. Scary, wonderful, exciting speculations unfold. We aren't as great, alone, in control, responsible as we think we are. Aliens can manipulate us at will, but they may not have our best interest at heart. We do have guardian angels, and they are aliens. Aliens can teach us to use parts of our minds and psyches we don't even know we have. They are impersonal scientists anesthetizing us for their experiments, the way we treat polar bears. Aliens confabulate. Resistance is possible. There are many different kinds of aliens, good, bad, and indifferent, with all sorts of agendas. Aliens are changing us. Hold on. For the better, aliens need something from us, our emotions. Aliens are us from our future. They don't come from outer space. They've always been here. How can we find out which of these speculations might be true? And here's the tricky part. Our best source of information is the abductees. We need us to tell them what is happening to them. When they do, a subtle change comes about. We forget they are people and treat them either as exhibits or wonders. As exhibits, they are often excluded from conferences because the material to be discussed is too frightening, and the experts don't want to unbalance the abductees. Yet without the abductees' presence and their reality checking, experts can create constructs on some single facet of the phenomena. This does service to no one, as the abductees at the conference here were continually pointing out. Since both the experts and the abductees have a personal stake in determining what the aliens are up to, we have to forge new partnerships which allow non-judgmental input and output. We have to create a new methodology. And this is a side point from me, Elizabeth. We haven't really created a new methodology with scientists. And in fact, no one in the paranormal really appears to be creating a new methodology. Any paranormal experiencer, Bigfoot experiencer, not just abductees. And there are complicated parts of that I'm going to get into after I finish reading that, or things that I've witnessed over the years and witnessed today that really troubled me significantly. But let's go on with what Andrea Pritchard says. Others may treat abductees as wonders or future tellers. Abductees claim to have seen warnings of ecological devastation or nuclear disasters played out across the face of our Earth. Because of these prophecies, people may be tempted to ask the abductees to lead us to New Age pastures, to be our visionaries. But they can't do this. They are still working out what it means themselves. As a society, we can also treat the abductees as messengers with unpleasant news and try to silence them by branding them as crazy. Or we can treat them as people and listen to their experiences, suspending disbelief if necessary, to get a feel for this bizarre and amazing phenomena. The choice of behavior is vitally important to the abductees. ours is one of the few cultures which does not openly consider spirits and other anomalies to be possible explanations for strange happenings. Since such ideas are not acceptable, abductees are put under a lot of strain. First, they think they're kidnapped by aliens. Then they're considered mad if they report it. Over and over, abductees state that it really hurts them when people they trust or respect say that aliens are just fantasies or delusions. So having been through this, having been through a relationship where, and it was just after this, it was a relationship formed in 1992, and it was with a PhD student at MIT, who actually experienced aliens in our apartment and knew what was happening and knew what happened with me. And I lost a child in the process of that. He later became very anti-abductee to the extent that, no, you're just imagining all of it. You and your, what's it called when you hallucinate? You and your hallucinations. And you know when the relationship is over, when you're childified to the point that everything you say is a foregone conclusion of hallucination. And so, boom, it was over after a couple of years, and maybe a half a year too long. Anyway, let's go back to a new methodology. We may have to create a new methodology. This hasn't happened. In 25 years, there is no new methodology. In fact, what I'm seeing is a cult of popularity, a cult of media figure, a cult of quote-unquote expert. And the experts that we're seeing are not real physicists or psychiatrists or psychologists. I mean, they might have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. But the experts who are coming out and reporting, I'm an optics expert, they may have a degree in astronomy. Well, they may be very good with optics, but they're not experimentalists. They're not actually listening to abductees. This is something that came across quite clearly today. I was having a discussion with somebody who was name-dropping actually current figures who are on the radio and who are writing that he is interested in, people who are on TV. And I'm talking about Dave Pritchard and my friend who just did discovered gravity waves with 100,006 other people, people who are actual scientists and experimentalists. I'm talking about getting them involved, and he's talking about an optics expert who works in Hollywood. So what science is, even to scientists, this guy's an engineer. This guy himself is an engineer. He's talking about scientists and this study as, you can sift through a compendium of literature and get there from here. Well, you can't. Without listening to abductees, you're not going to understand how ships work. You're not going to understand how the mind works. You're not going to understand how telepathy works. You're not going to understand how aliens turn people off and make them forget things. You're not going to understand gravity drive. There are so many things you are not going to understand by going through previous literature written by non-abductees. And abductees are not talking because you treat us like apes in the zoo. And if I'm talking to you and you recognize I'm talking to you, cut it out. We are intelligent people. We have a lot of information to give to science and to give to real scientists. And if you would look beyond your noses on your face and be able to consider what it means that something is behaving differently than expected and the possibilities of what that means for our understanding of science and reality, not just UFOs and whether or not we can find them and detect them, but what we can find out about gravity and how it works, what we can find out about thought, and perhaps even thought waves or waves of consciousness. These are wonderful things to discuss, especially in the light of technologies that some people have quite a bit of experience with and nobody wants to listen to them because they're part of the freak show. You know what? This person could be your doctor that you're putting down as part of the freak show. Some of them are your doctors. This person could be the engineer who made the plane you're flying in. Some of them are the engineers that made the planes you're flying in. But if they talk about their abductions, all of a sudden they're crazy and they're part of the freak show. Come on, people, grow up. Get interested. Get curious. Because we need a new methodology and we need to work together. And it is not happening. It's not even happening in politics, and we won't even go there. But, for right now, enough of looking at abductees like they're weirdos. We're not weirdos. I was the assistant to an editor of an engineering journal. I was an assistant to a chair of a department at MIT. Okay? As myself, just showing up as me, if I never said anything about this, you would never think boo. You'd just say, oh, what an intelligent person. So, get over it. You've had me edit your papers, and you didn't even know I was an abductee. Get over yourselves. That's all I have to say to you who really needed to hear that message. All right, moving on. So after the conference at MIT, a few things happened. Well, during the conference, a few things happened. Some funny things happened with abductees themselves. One was that there was a wonderful woman who came from Canada. I'll just call her C. I don't want to give her name out. She had worked in Canadian intelligence, according to her. Maybe James will be able to enlighten me if he knows anything about Canadian intelligence. We in the U.S. don't think there is any. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. No, we do think there is some. And she was pointing out who she thought were intelligence agents at the conference. And so I talked to her about her experiences. We talked in the back, and we talked in the bathroom. We talked where other people weren't around. And, she came up thumbs up with me in terms of being a real abductee. And then she was telling me, she pointed out two guys who had done the, and I've never heard of them anyplace else, but they were at this conference, and they were supposed to be studying, they had done brain scans of abductees with implants at the time. Don't know who these guys are. None of you would recognize them. And they were wearing a certain kind of suit and a certain kind of sunglasses. Like they had the glasses that were dark even though they were indoors. So they had like sunglasses on indoors or shaded glasses on indoors, and they had a certain kind of haircut. And she said those two are they're intelligence agents. They're either U.S., they're either CIA, Defense Intelligence, or something else. She goes, but notice what you want to do when they're nearby is say something very provocative. Say something about UFOs or ships that you know are aliens that's very provocative that you think they won't have heard before. And see if they don't lean toward you so their microphones can pick it up. Well, I was like, okay, I'm game. I'll do that thing, being young and, okay. So I am sitting at lunch. Andrea Pritchard's on one side. My friend Simon, who was the Pritchard's neighbor growing up and has been doing sound or was doing sound until I absconded with him and walked around the conference with him. We're at lunch, and these two guys sit down across from us. And I'm like, oh, cool. I can say something provocative and see if these guys lean in. So we get to lunch, and the salad is put down, and I start talking to Simon about something very provocative. I don't know what it is at this point. I think it has to do with the ship, because my talk is about flying a ship to another planet. So I'm talking about something about the ship, and I start to say it, and as soon as I start talking about it, both of the guys lean in from across the table. And when they do that, I'm just like, oh my God. And I turn to one of them and I say, are you getting this? And for a minute, I would like James to come back, if he is listening, and help me out for a sec.
Hello.
Hi, James.
G'day.
Hey. Hey, could you do a vamp for a minute? And I'm going to come back and tell people about the Defense Intelligence Agents.
Sure. What's a vamp?
I'm going to, tell them a story. I got to put the...
I was born at a very young age in a small town. No, I haven't ran into a lot of people from Canada, like the Defense Ministry and their intel side. I have run into a few guys from CSIS, which is kind of the poor man's CIA. It's a branch of the federal government that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police used to do this back before they got caught doing something bad. In the early 70s, there was a meeting being held by a bunch of guys in a political terrorist group in Quebec, and through wiretap, they heard the meeting was going to be at a barn, and they didn't know if they could get there in time to wire the barn up so they could listen to the meeting, so they burnt the barn down. And as you could imagine, that at the end of the day, when people were reviewing paperwork and realized these guys burnt a barn down, so the meeting couldn't take place, they got a little bit of caca. So from that, they made it a group of civilians that would follow people around, and then screw up the entire Air India investigation because they thought the police asked the Mounties that were working with them were too suspicious of bad guys, which was hoo-ha. Anyway, that's my fancy intel thing.
Yeah. No, I think she worked for CSIS.
CSIS, yeah. It would have. Yeah. Was she an ex-Mountie or an academic?
She was an academic. I think she was...
That's unfortunate. So she screwed up more than she understands.
Well, no, I think that she was an academic who ended up in a support position or something like that.
Oh, an analyst, maybe. Yeah.
Or something along those lines. Because she actually didn't have a high opinion of them either. She was like, they are so dumb.
Yep.
You can do this. And they'll be really obvious. So it was
a bunch of my friends who were Mounties who were in there left. They said this is stupid. Even guys who were retiring from the Mounties and transferring over because your pension would go because it's a federal government to federal government thing. The RCMP, when they went in with her to say, okay, I'm going to go to CSIS now, the RCMP guy said, hang on to your uniform. You don't have to hand it in yet because you'll be back. They said, no, I don't think so. Yeah, you'll be back. And sure enough, didn't last long. Anyway, get on.
Yeah, well, that was it. I mean, I actually leaned forward and said, are you guys catching this? When they both leaned forward, are your recorders on? And they turned so red, and they both looked in the other direction and didn't say anything to me. It was like I hadn't spoken at all because they were like, ooh. When a normal person would have said, what? What did you just say? And they just pretended they hadn't heard a thing and were not looking at me and hadn't leaned forward. And it was funny. It was really funny. But anyway, C ended up giving an interview that ended up being published. And hold on one second. And she really thought that the guy who was interviewing her was part of either our Defense Intelligence Agency or the CIA. And so she told him a bunch of stuff that wasn't true about some great alien ruler called something like Zazor. And this whole story of his war in space, the war in space of Zazor, which was completely ridiculous and had nothing to do with her real story. And he ended up publishing it, and then he wrote a book. And I'm not going to say who this is, but if you end up reading a book by a guy who went to the Abduction Studies Conference at MIT, who interviewed a female abductee, and he was talking about the war in space and Zazor, or something like that, or Zuza, no, it was meant to deflect defense or intelligence agency information gathering. Sorry, guy. I know you probably put a lot of work into that, but really, I don't think it was true. That's my understanding and remembrance of it. So she told me she was going to do that. And then I didn't see this come out until like 2 years ago. And a friend of mine pointed it out to me. He said, "What do you think of this book?" And I started reading what the guy was writing, and I went, "Oh my gosh, she did it. She told him that story." And I went, "Oh, ow, ooh." So, while people who are researchers may look at abductees like we're not very smart, be aware of how we are looking at you when we tell you some things, when we tell you the big story, the big fish story that does not sound like any other story any abductees who are really in research are telling. It's probably a little bit made up. At least if you're C and you work in intelligence and you think somebody might be working in intelligence. Anyway, moving on. Thanks, James, for telling me about CSIS, because I think that's right. I think that's who she thought those guys were. Moving on. So let's see, what else happened? Well, that was the most fun thing. The other most fun thing was, and it sounds really strange, but cleaning up after the conference every day. Everybody else would go out and they'd go to dinner, they'd go to separate meetings, and it would be Dave and Andrea and I picking up trash. And I have to say, I love them for that. I love them for picking up trash. And I love the time we spent cleaning up after the conference, and I will never forget that. And a friend of mine who's a physicist said that some really good physicists do that so they don't get an ego. And it's like, well, yeah, I think all physicists should do that. You should all pick up the trash afterwards and not make your assistants and people who work for the institution do it. So that was another really fun thing. All the SETI guys came from Harvard. There was almost a knockdown, drag-out fight. And if you ever get the book, Alien Discussions, you can read the comments of the almost knockdown, drag-out fight, because literally the alien abductee researchers felt like all of a sudden they were in the position that abductees are often in, where they're kind of being looked at by somebody who has all the money and all the societal respect and all the go-ahead to do the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. They felt like they were being looked at like curious oddities of crazy people. And a lot of them took offense. And it not only showed in the comments, which were restrained, compared to some people who were standing up with white knuckles, basically. Basically that conversation was ended before it became really a fight, because it was about to become a fight. And it had to do with funding, and it had to do with why does SETI get so much funding and people who work with abductees don't. Well, guess what? Now nobody does. But it was very, very interesting to be there for that part of the event as well. Moving on, after the event, the media, which had been quite fair with John Mack and quite fair with Dave Pritchard, all of a sudden became quite unfair. And I'm going to read something about media that some of you may be very familiar with. Unfortunately, I put my glasses down when I fed the dog. Shoot. I'll try to see it the best I can. This is from Noam Chomsky and Edward Herman, and it's an excerpt from Manufacturing Consent that was written in 1988. And this is what Edward and Noam say about the mass media. The mass media serve as a system for communicating messages and symbols to the general populace. It is their function to amuse, entertain, and inform, and to inculcate individuals with the values, beliefs, and codes of behavior that will integrate them into the institutional structures of the larger society. In a world of concentrated wealth and major conflicts of class interest, to fulfill this role requires systematic propaganda. In countries where the levers of power are in the hands of a state bureaucracy, the monopolistic control over the media, often supplemented by official censorship, makes it clear that the media serve the ends of the dominant elite. It is much more difficult to see a propaganda system at work where the media are private and formal censorship is absent. This is especially true where the media actively compete, periodically attack and expose corporate and governmental malfeasance, and aggressively portray themselves as spokesmen for free speech and the general community interest. What is not evident and remains undiscussed in the media is the limited nature of such critiques, as well as the huge inequality in the command of resources and its effect on access to private media system and on its behavior and performance. A propaganda model focuses on this inequality of wealth and power and its multi-level effects on mass media interest and choices. It traces the routes by which money and power are able to filter out the news fit to print, marginalize dissent, and allow the government and dominant private interests to get their messages across to the public. The essential ingredients of our propaganda model are a set of news filters that fall under the following headings. The size, concentrated ownership, owner wealth, and profit orientation of the dominant mass media firms, advertising as a primary source of income source for the mass media, the reliance of media on information provided by government, business, and experts, funded and approved by these primary sources and the agents of power, and flack as a means of disciplining the media for things that they say that go against what is concerned. I'm paraphrasing that. Basically, the media serves, in paraphrasing this, to marginalize dissidents and to use filters that occur naturally to media news people, even if they think they are working with integrity and goodwill. And so basically what has happened, or what happened, is all of a sudden, because alien abduction research got quote-unquote big, and also media people were invited to come, reasonable, real media people were invited to come. And I think because John Mack was so interested in catering to the media to get the word out, and to get other psychotherapists and psychiatrists involved so that more research could be done so we could get a good idea of how prevalent abduction was and also start to get help to people. You know, working in a very humanistic way, both humanistic in bringing to the world this information that we are not alone, we are not the only sentient advanced species here that's a hominid, we're walking on two legs, that has technology, and also helping people who had been abducted and traumatized, or were being abducted, or were having strange events happen. So there was an article written just after the MIT conference by the Wall Street Journal. And here is what the journalist said. And unfortunately, this article is really small print. But here's what he said about how Harvard was treating Dr. Mack. Yet universities have been quite tolerant of the abduction researchers' efforts. Many great ideas sound offbeat at the beginning, says Malcolm Northman, acting head of Harvard's psychiatry department at Cambridge Hospital in Massachusetts. There is some concern, but by and large, I think the department feels it's useful to encourage creative work as long as it doesn't get in anybody's way or do any harm. Temple University in Philadelphia even lets Dr. Jacobs teach a course called UFOs in American Society. Temple believes in academic freedom, says Dr. Jacobs. Besides, I also have tenure, so there's not much they can do about it. The career of Dr. Mack, a 35-year veteran of Harvard's psychiatry department, has been peppered with projects that aren't in the mainstream, including studies of psychology of nuclear war and the 1971 Pulitzer Prize-winning psychoanalytic biography of Lawrence of Arabia. But none has been so out of this world as his work with people claiming to have been kidnapped by little gray humanoids. Now, think about this. This is a media person who is saying what he thinks in a backhanded way, that maybe it's not okay that people be allowed to do. And he's also pointing out what would have to happen to get Dr. Mack into trouble. There is some concern, but by and large, I think the department feels it's useful to encourage creative work as long as it doesn't get in anybody's way or do anybody any harm. Boom. That sets up something that happens that is completely, in my opinion, manufactured by CSICOP, which is all of a sudden we have in our alien abduction support group a person called Donna who is sent to us through MUFON, who, for example, a MUFON was the person I was talking to today, who made me feel quite small. And her husband had worked with Phil Klass on an aviation journal about 11 years before. But she still wanted to come to group and swore upside down, backwards and forwards that she was an abductee. But when she got into group, she didn't really act like other abductees in the group. She basically started holding court, telling everybody what everything was about. That was not what a support group is about. Not being quiet, talking through the whole group so that no one else had an opportunity to express anything. And as time went on, she managed to steal all the money from the group as it became a nonprofit. And I'm not just saying this by speculation. I was the treasurer, and she forged my name on the check that stole the money. And then she managed to incorporate the nonprofit for herself and her husband. And then when Pierre and John Mack did not pay her a salary for running her corporation in support of abductees, she went to the New York Times and said that she had lied about being an abductee, and that she had fooled Dr. Mack, and that he was being fooled by people telling him crazy stories like she had done. And then Dr. Mack was invited to a CSICOP annual conference, which is the Skeptics Conference. If you don't know who CSICOP is, CSICOP. Skeptics who claim to be supporting science and protecting it from scientists who want to do real scientist stuff and science. Anyway, he was invited to go speak there. And she showed up and claimed that she didn't know Philip Klass, who was there, and she didn't know anything about CSICOP, when she had told everyone all along their husband had worked with him, and her husband had. So, and then she ends up writing a letter to Harvard saying that she is concerned that Dr. Mack is doing harm in his research. And this is what it says, that, Cambridge Hospital and the Harvard Psychiatry Department are not worried as long as he doesn't get in anybody's way or do any harm. And all of a sudden, you have someone writing in saying, I believe he may be doing harm. You should watch your legal back with him. And then everybody who is at the Harvard Psychiatry Department who didn't like the research or didn't like John Mack, because he had made some enemies. He had started the psychiatry department at Cambridge Hospital and the children's psychiatry department, and he had actually pushed it through. And if you've ever worked with professors, you know that it's like herding cats. They don't like each other. Everybody's competing for resources. They are so egotistical with each other. It's absolutely ridiculous. Don't mind me. Do I know what I'm talking about? Worked for a chair of a department at MIT. Do you think I know what I'm talking about? Had one of the biggest grants at the entire college under my wing. Holy crap, do they act like cats and get egotistical and not like each other and play politics. Oh my God. So all of these people came out of the woodwork, and there was an inquiry into whether or not he should still have tenure, which it said David Jacobs is saying, well, besides, I have tenure, and there's not much they can do about what I study. Same at Harvard. Dr. Mack had tenure. So all of a sudden they want to do an inquiry whether they should censor him for this research, censure him for the research, and whether or not he should keep tenure. Oh my gosh. What a madhouse. What a madhouse. And anybody who is anybody in abduction research, I'm sorry, you can say that it had gone as far as it could go with the Abduction Studies Conference at MIT, that there wasn't going to be any higher event than that. But the fact of the matter is, when they saw an inquisition about alien abduction with John Mack, who was a Pulitzer Prize winner, who was basically one of the most respected Harvard psychiatrists and world psychiatrists who had worked in the peace process in the Middle East with presidents, when they saw him get, basically sent to the fire pit, skewered over hot coals, whatever you want to call it, as an academic, people started running for the hills. And the next thing that happened was all of a sudden abductees who were, just barely being able to not be the freak show, just barely getting out of being the weird people that you look at like they're apes in the zoo. All of a sudden, MUFON folks, the nuts and bolts gearhead guys, oh no, we all know that research was confabulated. This Donna person, she uncovered the whole thing. All of a sudden, there is nothing. Well, within a few years, nothing. Because the media then comes out with article after article, not in support, not friendly like it was before the Abduction Studies Conference at MIT, not friendly like it was in 1992 for the most part. In 1994, by the time CSICOP has arranged for someone to do what needed to be done, and that is my opinion that they arranged it, and I held it strongly, though it is just an opinion. Even though it had been friendly, it was no longer friendly. Even though Carl Sagan, who John Mack had personally asked his opinions about him going into abduction studies research, Carl had said, yeah, you should do it. You can learn something. Carl Sagan is coming out and writing negative articles because all of a sudden you have to marginalize the dissidents. All of a sudden you have to keep people in line. You have to follow what the media does in terms of keeping control. So that's what happened after the Abduction Studies Conference at MIT. That was not very good for abductees. Now, where are we now? Okay, we went through a really dark period in 1995, 96, 97, the early 2000s. Even I really liked, what was his name? McConnell. And I got invited to be on a show, and they made fun of me on the air because I was an abductee. And that was really rude and very hurtful. But, I gave a good interview. I wasn't listening to what they were doing when I was not on air, so I didn't hear it. All my friends told me about it, and then I heard it later. But, all of a sudden, abductees become the people you make fun of. Experiencers are those weird people. They are the freak show. They're the New Agers. They wear purple. They're the telepaths. They have magical thinking. Well, you know what? I edited your manuscripts and your journals, science dudes. You didn't know I was an abductee. And I was editing your stuff and managing your grants. So don't give me that. And don't give the guy who made your airplane more safe that. Don't give the computer programmer who programmed the code that you use every single day that. Don't give the doctor and the veterinarian who is not telling you that. Don't give the cop who just pulled over the drunk driver and just saved your life that. Because none of us deserve that. And none of us deserve how we've been treated, not just in the mainstream media, but how we've been treated in the MUFON groups and how we've been treated in the alternative media and how we are often treated at conferences. Some people are very open, and it's wonderful to go to a conference. It's wonderful to share stories. It's wonderful, and it's life-changing to meet other abductees. And just like the conference at MIT, I went to IUFOC, and I met other experiencers, and I met a great person that has introduced me to other great people who I'm so glad I met, and he's so glad he met me. Just a friend, but life-changing experience to find somebody who's seen the same ship that I've seen. You know, nobody else for 25 years or 23 years had seen that same ship except for this guy. So it's so cool that I have somebody who has the same frame of reference for something from childhood and young adulthood. Same ship. Nobody else saw him. You know, that's awesome. That is so awesome. So conferences are worthwhile, but we've got everybody there, and we've still got the people who in the early 2000s and even up into 2011, when I went on McConnell's show, are making fun of abductees. It's not right. So we really need a new method. We need a new attitude across the board in the paranormal. We need a new method with science. We need to actually reach out and start talking to people. Again, those of us who are strong enough to do it, to real scientists. We need to get them thinking about the problem. It's a really hard problem. And we need scientists who aren't egotistical to do it. And real scientists who are in academia who have the means to do experimentalism, to do experiments on gravity wave detection of ships or optics or something. Because that's what they do. It doesn't do anybody any good to say, I'm dropping my ball and going home because I can't deal with your attitude. I've done that a million gazillion times, and it's 25 years later, and literally we're just picking back up again with the free longitudinal study of experiencers. These guys were emeritus researchers who did this, but they're great. Bob Davis is great. They've got so many people that have put their information in. But we still need more than that. And if we want to advance as human beings on this planet and have a full picture of who we are in the universe, we all need a new attitude. Experiencers should try to reach out, but also people who do engineering and science and psychiatry and psychology and child psychiatry and trauma work, reach out. Please reach out and ask somebody you know, what is this about? What do you know about it? What's happened to you? And treat that person like a human being. I was so angry after, in 1994, and actually I was so angry about being so ostracized in the early 90s that I got very, very sick. And a lot of the reason why abductees have immune system problems is because we are socially ostracized to an incredible degree, and we can't be who we are, or we feel we can't be who we are. And a lot of healing is allowing oneself to be, and to feel that one is allowed to be with their family members, with their friends, at work, with people in society, is allowing one to be. And when you belong to such a marginalized group, it's very hard to feel allowed to be. So everybody who's an abductee, please be. I give you permission. Be here on Earth with us. And everybody else, let's form something new. Let's do something different. It's time. This is Elizabeth Anglin. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at info@elizabethanglin.com or on Facebook at Elizabeth Anglin or Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. Thank you so much for listening to my talk tonight. I'll be back next week with Eileen Meyer, who has written the book Coyopa. On Saturday night, she'll be with us talking about her experiences and how she has handled them. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you later.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, News Director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com. It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners, for only $5 a month you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
It's time to go live on Spaced Out Weekend.
$13, please. Oh, hi, Kevin. Oh, is that the time? Kevin, my friend, don't you find that watch just a little bit loud? Well, I certainly hope our buddy Bumblefoot is playing when we get there. Oh, you stinky big bundle of hair. I said Bumblefoot, not Bigfoot. Oh, it's going to be a long night.
It's time to head to the 13th floor of the old log cabin for Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson. You can tweet James at James Tyson SOR. You can find him on Instagram, Spaced Out Weekend, as well as on Facebook. On YouTube, our channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can check out our website, spacedoutradio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
And now, perched high in his captain's chair, way above the clouds, here's James Tyson.
Welcome, everybody, to Day 2, Spaced Out Weekend. Can you guess what day that would be then? It's the second day of the weekend. It is I, James Tyson. Thank you, Dave. I am broadcasting from my little log cabin here on the 13th floor of the Spaced Out Radio Network in the paranormal portals of the lower left Canadian coast, Cascadia, the Pacific Northwest. And I'll tell you, want basically almost a whole day without rain. Absolutely amazing. Got the motorcycle out, trucked up to a place called Whistler, where I guess the 2010 Olympics were up in there, and cruise up the highway. Yeah, just beautiful, beautiful day with the boys. And damn busy. Sunday, all the families clogging up a really nice chunk of highway that weaves on the side of a mountain with the Pacific Ocean off to the side. Rocks just tipping just gently, looking like they're going to come down on top of you. And it was death, basically. Yes, death. Tonight, we have, speaking of death, no. Sorry, Skeeter. Tonight we have The Shift. Now, The Shift, for those of you who are playing along at home, is a little bit of a more prophecy than, call in and Skeeter's going to tell you where your dog lost the keys or something. It's going to be, it has been quite an interesting little path we've been taking here. It goes well with what we talked about last night with Stephen Schwartz and his 8 laws. It's an amazing idea that so many of us put our heads together or actually just change the way we do things to a more positive way of living, how that, in the greater scheme of things, will change the direction of humankind. Baby steps. We'll get going with those baby steps. Now, for those of you who don't know who Skeeter Welhouse is, she's a seamstress by trade and a fashion designer and costume manufacturer. She's been into the paranormal since she saw her first ghost at about the age of 2. It was a dark-haired nurse in her early 50s era nurse's uniform. Now, since then, Skeeter has experienced many more ghosts and has practiced various forms of divination, including pendulums, cards, palms, all in order to communicate with those spirits better. She began studying various occult practices and religions in high school, which led her to becoming an eclectic hedge witch. Now, that's something you're going to have to send her an email about if you want to know more at Blue Moon Weaver at gmail.com. That is something that's kind of interesting. An eclectic hedge witch. I always get amazed every time I read that. Skeeter did her first formal investigation back in 1996, and over the past few years has joined several professional paranormal teams that have helped her to expand her experience and knowledge base of those spooky things that go bump in the night. She's now with Forest Moon Paranormal with our friend Eric Cooper and the guys, which was with, and I guess she's still connected to Purple Sage Paranormal and New Mexico Paranormal Association. And gosh darn it, she is an associate member of the Canadian Paranormal Investigation Group thing, as soon as we come up with a better name. And it's been helping in doing remote viewing from her little log cabin down in Washington State to where we are going in to do paranormal investigations up here in Canada. And I think this is the way to do this. I really do. That cuts through a lot of the crap in the first half of an investigation, or even the first night or day of an investigation. When you go in, you can totally bypass that and get right to the meat and potatoes of the investigation. And once you know the name of the entity that's there and find out why it's there and try to get it punted out or find out what the client wants. So it's the way that things should be kind of moving to. Maybe it probably doesn't make for really good television. It always looks better when you get a couple of yahoos or what I saw, a couple of cheerleaders or whatever, and bouncing around chasing noises. Anyway, whatever can sell soap on the Travel Channel. There we are. Skeeter has been away all weekend at, where was it? It was Crypticon, Skeeter?
Seattle Crypticon.
How was that?
It was amazing. It's the only place that you see people running towards the villain, going, hug me, and it's fantastic.
What kind of villains did you have at a Crypticon?
We had Jason, we had Freddy, we had Leatherface, we had the Five Nights of Freddy crew, we had we actually did have Pinhead.
Really?
I actually mean the actual actor who played in Hellraiser was there, and people were running up and loving him and kissing him and getting autographs and pictures. It was fantastic. We had individuals from the original Walking Dead there. It was just a fantastic event. They just finished. This was their 10th one. So there was a lot of great fun there, a lot of extras because it was a 10-year celebration. They're already getting revved up for next year because this year was such a success. I snuck in under the radar and got in as a reader. And it was absolutely fantastic getting to use some of the new gifts that I'm being allowed to use and connect with people and really see what it's going to take to make the shift from going from bad to good. And really? Being able to work with this many people doing these new things that I'm being told to do in such an amazing environment was just astounding. You would have loved it.
Oh. I don't know. It sounds like there might have been a lot of Americans in Seattle.
There were a couple.
Yeah, a couple. It was one of those things. We talked about this when we were down in the Oregon Ghost Conference, and I just couldn't see myself going to something with like a Freddy Krueger character or this guy you called Pinhead, who that doesn't mean anything to me. But yeah, it's like, really? I don't know about stuff like that. I know that you did, and as Elizabeth was talking about it in the first hour, alien abductions, and as Eric Cooper on S4 on Spreaker at midnight, it will be talking about alien abductions a little further. And again, if you haven't heard Eric and the boys on and his crew basically over on S4, go to Spreaker. If you are listening to us on Spreaker right now, stick around on Spreaker at midnight if you have the time, and listen to that conversation and get into that one, because they're going to be talking more on abduction. But Skeeter, when you were in Washington, you actually was doing a reading, and a gentleman came to you and disclosed. Or did he disclose it, or did you...
No, I picked it up. He sat down, and I asked him what kind of reading he'd like, and he said he'd like a 3-card reading, and the minute I flipped the first card, I'm like, you've seen something, haven't you? And he kind of looked at me, and I said, you saw a ship. In fact, you were taken, weren't you? And he kind of looked at me weird, and then under his voice, he goes, I was a kid when it happened. And I said it wasn't the grays, it was the big bluish silver ones, right? And started going into it, and he was like, you could see his eyes getting really big, and you could see he wanted to move deeper into my tent. I have like a gypsy tent set up, and you could tell he wanted to get out of sight so that nobody could tell that this very professional looking individual had been abducted.
Interesting. That is, and I've done readings for people, and I don't think I could. I don't know what I'd do if I flipped the card and all of a sudden I start getting downloaded that info. I'd be sneaking back further in the tent myself and tell the guy to leave. That would have been a real kick in the butt for him to sit down to get a reading, and the next thing you know. So that first card now being that my first two cards are my confidence builders.
Yeah.
And so now, okay, that makes sense. You understand this, right? And they're looking at you kind of nodding that, okay, that's what happened. And I know I'm not supposed to be asking for reassurance, but I do. But when you flip that card over, was the reason you got that information, was there follow-up information to that on the second and third card, or you were tuning into the rest of the information that, hey, look, we understand this happened. You have to bring it back to the surface, kind of chew on it, spit it out, and quit carrying it like a negative.
That was the majority of it was they wanted, when I flipped that first card, all of a sudden I was getting pictures in my head of what he saw, and that's why I had to ask. And then once he admitted it, because I am a medium and I do tap into these things, all of a sudden behind me was exactly what I was describing to him. It was a very tall, thin, very delicate-looking, silverish blue being. And the blue being was telling me, go ahead and tell him that the reason we came is because he's one of us. And when I told him that, that's when I noticed the tattoos on his arm that were just peeking out from under his shirt sleeve. And I'm like, well, you already know this, but you're part of their family. And this poor guy, his eyes are just, he's putting his head down a little lower. And you could tell at that point, he didn't just want in the tent, he wanted under my table, because I'm just going into this going, it's okay. They want you to know it's all right. They want you to know that they didn't hurt you. You weren't experimented on. You're not one of the ones that were taken advantage of. So don't worry about that part. You can put that part to rest. They were just making sure that you were okay in your family. And yes, the family we put you in was not the best family, but that's because you needed to learn how to stand on your own. And I mean, it's going. And this poor guy, you could tell I'm hitting a lot of buttons in him, because you can see the tears, you can see the, oh God, can we go under the table in the tent? Better yet, can we leave the room?
That's weird.
It was more so for them. They saw an opportunity to connect him with them and them with him, and let him know that it's okay. And yes, he has had visits since then, even very recently. And it's okay. They're just checking on him and making sure he's all right.
Wow. So was that what do you get out of the reason for this, for him to be drawn into a reading at a Crypticon anyway? It was just, he was steered towards you to get the info?
He was. I mean, here's a guy walking through with his girlfriend, checking out the closing of the last day, and it was like he saw me and he was like, 3 cards, and slapped down a 20, and I was like, okay. I wasn't expecting that, but let's go. And when everything flew out, it was like even he wasn't expecting what he got. I think for him it was kind of like, oh, I'll go to the gal in the gypsy tent, and she looks cute and innocent. Nothing scary about her. I'll go there.
And then you showed up and scared the heck out of him. Oh, sorry. Yep. Yeah. What?
I love
understand.
you, James.
Yeah, well, that would be it. And to me, that he was meant to be there, just cruising through, looked at you and said, and he had that subliminal tap on the shoulder saying, sit down, we have to talk. And we're going to be talking through this lady here, and buckle up. This is going to be a fun ride.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. So where do you think, or do you get any idea who these beings were, or where they're from? Like,
they're very high up. They're very calm, very intellectual. They were the silvery blue ones, very tall, very thin.
With hair? No hair?
No hair.
See, that's why us bald guys are so smart. So, what is... Oh, come on, where's my... Usually, is it Corey? He gives me one of the Corys gives me a good list of all the different, in one of the chat rooms here, gives me a list of all the good alien guys. But did he leave your client? Did he leave comfortably, or was he still a little shaken?
Yeah, he did. No, I sat with him. We did the reading, and then I sat with him and I said, you know what? I'm being taught to do something new. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to take all the negative that you have about this, and I'll replace it with love. And so I just took him in, and there's Corey. He says Palladian, and that's right. Okay. That sounds very right for this. But I said, you know what? And this is going to help heal all of that, all of those memories, all of those feelings, and we'll just go from there. And he let me do the healing session. I took a lot of stuff from him, including a lot of nervous memories and a lot of nervous energy about this, because he didn't quite know. Because when you hear about abductees, almost all of them are like, oh yeah, I was experimented on. Well, not all abductees are experimented on.
Yeah.
That's what people need to do, is understand that it's not always a scary situation. And not all of them experiment on us, and not all of them want to experiment on us. Some of them are just checking on family or friends, or just seeing where the race is. Yeah. And once we cleared all that out, I gave him a whole bunch of healing and love to help soothe it out. And when he walked away, he made his girlfriend get a reading from me, which was a lot of fun. And I left them both with big hugs, and he looked like he weighed about 100 pounds lighter.
Oh, that's excellent.
So it was a really amazing experience.
That's brilliant. You know, and that, to me, that would make my whole weekend. Just that one reading.
Yeah.
To be able to take that many years of just an odd memory that you don't know if it was real, or was it real? Was I dreaming? And actually giving him closure to the event back when he was a kid. And now he understands a lot more when he moves on. Was he getting information in dream state too?
He wasn't willing to disclose a lot of that because it was kind of awkward.
Yeah, and plus in readings you don't want the client to.
Yeah, you don't really want him to give you a bunch.
Yeah, and plus his girlfriend was there.
Yeah.
Probably looking at her watch, going, "Oh, great, I'm with an alien."
No, she was actually really cool about it. And when we went over some of her stuff. She didn't have alien stuff, but she had other stuff. So the two of them really got a good cleaning out. And I took a lot of negative energy from both of them and gave them both a lot of healing love and big hugs and sent them on their way.
Yeah, I was just thinking, too, I guess they wouldn't have drawn him to you with her there if she wasn't going to react the right way. Yeah. Now, we were off air, and you were telling me a little bit about this Crypticon and how it does resonate to what we discuss weekly on the shift. What did you mean by that?
One of the things that I was noticing, and it has to do with something that I'm being pushed towards doing, is actually starting to not just talk to people about the shift, but actually take a proactive role in healing people. Okay. At the convention, I ran into lots of people who are very nervous about the shift, who have experienced negative things both paranormally and non-paranormally. People who were scared, people who were nervous, they wanted to know what's going on, what's happening. A lot of them left the readings open to spirit. For me, one of the things that I'm being encouraged to do, and I will admit I learned this gift a long time ago. I was a bit of a I was a bit of a little brat.
Yes.
Back then. Mm-hmm. And I used it to be obnoxious, but I'm learning now that it's supposed to be used as a healing tool. And
you've learned now to use it for good.
Yes.
Use your powers for good.
Yes. And what it is that I sat with a lot of people. I took a lot of hurt, a lot of fear, a lot of negative memories, negative energy. I took on people's attachments, you name it. I physically took it into myself. For those of you who are worried about what that does to me, it actually becomes neutral. It just zeroes out. I don't know why it does this. It just does. I can take on, this is why I can work with the darker energies, is that I can actually take a lot from them and just neutralize it. Oh. And it becomes, it just becomes. It just is.
Oh, you're giving me one of those metaphysical answers.
Yeah.
It is because it is. That'll be $75. What?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then what I do is, because I've taken all of this out, there's a blank, empty spot in them. So I have to turn around and I give back to them. And what I give is the healing and love. And a lot of it's love. And this is something that I've been learning, is how to just love someone absolutely unconditionally without any reason whatsoever. You just gotta love them. Yeah. And, you send that into them. And it is so amazing when you watch, as I'm doing this, you see them and you see their eyes bug out as you're taking this, and they feel this stuff leaving them. And then to watch their eyes bug out again as you're putting it back, and they can feel this different loving energy going in. And all I could see was, I just changed the shift. I did this to probably about 2 to 3 dozen people over the weekend. Those 2 to 3 dozen people are now positively charged. And that positiveness is going to ripple out.
That's what we talked about last night with Stephen A. Schwartz and his 8 laws of change. They were just basic, and they're not even his real law. He wrote the book on them, but it's it basically is the way we conduct our own life, and do our day-to-day actions, and shopping and interacting with people. As long as, if we change it and do it to what we believe is not only the best for us, but the best for those around us, the ripple effect will go out.
Yep.
And that is and that ripple effect will then affect the others around us. And he's a scientist, kind of geeky guy, and he puts together, he collects data, reads it, regurgitates it, breaks it down. And one of the things that he looked at was water. And they had like 2 vials of water. One was the control, which left in a box somewhere. And the other one, he had people from all over the world send kind of like positive vibes to this thing. And when they tested the water, it had an extremely high, it basically was like pure water, high, it reinforced your immune system. It was just whatever rating they used, it was going through the roof, and the other water was just water.
Yeah.
And it was just
I believe
focused energy on this, which is what it turned it into a very, very positive element. And imagine when we talk about the shift and we talk about these, oh my God, this is going to happen, unless we get our collective poop together, this is how we do it, or these are ways of doing that. And it all comes down to the individual. And we talked about, the cause, the way to change things. There's violence and there's a peaceful change. And the violent change usually doesn't last more than a decade or so and falls at the wayside because there's so many, you've isolated so many of the people in your country because it was a violent takeover. Mind you, I forgot to ask him about this. We were talking about, Russia and the revolution and the Nazis and everything like that. And I was going to tell him or ask him about, well, the country you live in was revolution, civil war. So it wasn't built on hugs and kisses. And I don't think a lot of, I was going to say empires, but bigger countries, there always was somebody on the other side with a pointy stick going to take out their eye.
Yeah.
And I know that from studying my history and the history of the British Commonwealth and then the Portuguese who were all over the place doing the same thing. So, it's not like we didn't cause, we as any of these, we being, I guess, my case, kind of the English side of it. We weren't all hugs and kisses. My gosh. Bunch of
nobody came over and said, hey, want to sit down, have a cup of tea, let's talk about this. We'd like to take over your country. Would you mind stepping aside?
We'll show you how to do everything better because we're men and we're white and you're not. So let us bring you Christianity and tea. So I don't know. It was awkward, but anyway, what we're thinking now is we look at all this stuff, and to change instead of, and I've always done this in my life, instead of running around with a picket sign bashing it on somebody, I would just, if I wanted to change the way someone thought about something, or a government ran something, I would look for people within that machine and try to change them, or actually get hired and go into it like I did with the police. You can yell and scream from the outside and it'll take forever to change something, but if you get a job within it and change policy within, it works a lot better. And if you get enough of those people in, the system will develop, because any of these government systems, the government itself should be organic. It should be able to change through time, through every decade. There should be a tweak to it. You can't have a policy manual that's dusty and sits in a corner and some old guy saying, nope, that's the way we do stuff. Oh, really? You're going to hang me? No, hold on. We're going to skip that one, but take your pen and take your feather and a little bottle of ink over there. Okay, we have to cross that one off too. It's really, get your poop together. It should be organic. It should change with the times.
Yeah.
Change with, definitely change with the way science and technology. My gosh, we're always running behind the technology side of thing, and it should all change
Well, we don't want to rely too much on technology because
it's not
technology isn't going to have the heart. It's not going to have that touch. I mean, there's a lot of things missing there.
Well,
I mean, technology is good, but
I always look at it as there's like a new knee surgery. Okay, we're going to replace your knee. We're going to do a full knee replacement. That surgery 30 years ago was incredibly invasive.
Yeah.
And you probably, it might fix it, it might not, that kind of thing. But now it's like you're in, you're out. But the system itself, and I can only talk about my system, but when my boss says you've got to get a new knee, and we're going to take you off and put you at a desk until you get your knee fixed, well, they can pay to go into a private clinic, get it done, and it's like X amount of thousands of dollars, or I can be on a waiting list for a year. But that waiting list, while I'm on the waiting list, I'm not doing my job that you and I, the taxpayer, is paying me to do. So let's pay it up front, get it done, get them back to work.
Yeah.
But the system is so behind the technology. Their system is still based on the 30-year-old surgery where you're going to still be off for 7 or 8 months and all this and all the other follow-up with physio. And you actually really should just tear that out of the book and write another one because technology has changed.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I mean by it's not, the system is not keeping up with technology when it comes to providing proper service to the people who are paying the system to look after this stuff.
Yeah. No, I get that.
I'm venting. Sorry.
But, like when I had my massive surgery, when I was 22 months old over 40 years ago.
6 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the surgery hasn't changed. In fact, when they did my surgery, it was still groundbreaking. The surgery itself hasn't changed for others who have what I have. You still lose an eye. The cool thing is they are coming up with new ways to transplant eyes. So you don't just lose an eye and get a prosthetic. You can now get an eye. They've even been developing, and I knew they were developing it before they even came out with it, which is funny. But they've even been working on a robotic eye that actually sends signals to the brain that the brain can interpret and send images.
Wow.
So that you can see through it. It's a bionic eye. In fact, when I was working at one of the high-end tech places for a while as a sandwich girl, I was joking with someone about this because they did implant it, and I got the Enquirer end, the National Enquirer type thing, where the guy had to have it removed almost immediately because it was picking up television channels and throwing him off as he was driving. So they had to remove the eye. The gentleman who picked it, who didn't just laugh at me, but actually asked me, well, where are they doing this? And I gave him the information. He's made a fortune off of it. Because he went and found the actual company, found out the truth about it, and invested in it. And they are now actually bringing these eyes out and testing them. I don't know if they've gone into human testing yet, but I think they're either just starting or about to start.
Interesting.
And it's really amazing. I mean, so the surgery itself hasn't changed, but how to do follow-up has changed for the technology.
Yeah.
Even for me, the system has changed. It's slow, it's steady, but, that's how things shift. It's a slow and steady thing.
Evolves.
It evolves.
And that is outside of the government.
But even the government evolves. I mean, look at the French government, they've gone through many evolutions.
And they missed one yesterday, too. But that lady got a lot of votes.
She did.
Nothing like a good Nazi to bring out the happiness in the room.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, she was a piece of work, is a piece of work.
But the thing is, though, is that change doesn't happen until there's a demand for it. And that's why our president was elected, is to wake people up and make them change.
Yeah.
I mean, if we become complacent, evolution becomes complacent.
Okay.
There's no change. I was physically, actively changing people over this weekend. When you go out and you write letters to your government, when you write letters to your officials, when you actively get involved, you create change. When you write letters and say, hey, this isn't working for me, I need this. Like I told that guy about that eye. And he thought the idea was great, and he went and he invested in it. And he was an engineer. He was someone way up there. And he even offered them his services to help make it come true.
That's fascinating. I hope you get a free one.
I don't want one.
Oh, okay.
Just my luck. I'll get I Love Lucy and I'll be totally screwed.
Yeah. Where's Skeeter? Let's keep an eye out for her. Hey, sorry. More of your fanciness over at Cryptopia. It's Cryptopia. That's my new Crypticon.
I like it.
Yeah,
we'll
Cryptopia.
Go with it.
It doesn't sound like throwing a con at the end of thing. Watergate Con.
No, I don't think I'd go to that
one. So you were fundamentally changing people's focus and changing people's outlook when they left.
Yeah.
And would you say a couple of those people were, quote unquote, that term awakened?
Oh, yeah. No, there were definitely some. Yeah. I have stock in Kleenex, so it's my job to really change people's lives. There were definitely some who left the table where even I was going, wow, that was one for the books.
Well, that's what happened to me. I come into a psychic, and next thing I'm walking out going, what do you mean I could do this? What do you mean I'm whatever this thing is? And, and it went from there and to where I am now, a very, very not famous person on an internet radio show. The whole idea of throwing that switch on and letting somebody understand that all those weird things they encountered when they were younger or in their past or on the way to Crypticon isn't crazy. It is what it's supposed to be. And here's now a guidebook, and you pat them on the head and you send them on their way. I think that's fantastic.
No, it's I love it.
So where do you think your path has now changed, or where do you think, or have you just added a stopover on your path?
It's funny you should ask that, because as I was going through all these people, I had a moment to myself and I laid out my cards. And I normally cannot read for myself. If I'm involved in it at all, my cards just giggle at me. And as I laid them out, they actually told me that I am getting ready to be opened up to even more of my gifts. And it's going to be my job to physically get a hold of people and start lighting that fire in them. Because that's what I was doing. I was physically grabbing people, giving them their readings, and then looking at them going, can I give you a gift? And people would look at me really funny, and I'd go, I'm going to take all the negativity. And some people's eyes would be like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I will take all the negativity and I will replace it with love and light. Are you up for that? And they were like, oh, well, yeah. And they'd be really skeptic at first until it happened. And as they were walking away, I could see what I was doing, and I would show them other methods on how to quiet their minds so that they could focus more on what they needed to do for themselves to help them help others. And I taught them tricks that they could share with others. So for me, all of a sudden, I was seeing the ripple effect as one person would go, oh my God, this lady over here, you got to go.
Okay. So, yeah, it's the ripple effect you have to count on to keep the energy going. It's no good to have two people come in, high five, bounce out. Had a question from Eric Markham, who's very, very old. He was wondering if you can do any work with recovered memories.
I can. I have been called into that. I'm being called into a lot of things right now. I got a feeling my life is really going to explode on what I'm able to work with. But I do work with recovered memories.
That's very cool. And if anybody wants to get a hold of Skeeter and talk about that, well, you have your website.
Yeah.
thebluemoonweaver.com. Is it .org? Yeah. bluemoonweaver.com. And you can get a hold of her there and want to talk about the recovered memories. Or you could also have a dress made. So it's what the heck.
Actually, I'm no longer doing the sewing.
You're not?
No. Spirit told me you have to quit this or else. And I said no, and they said fine. We'll put you through the ringer, and when you say mercy, we'll stop.
That's funny.
It wasn't funny at the time.
Oh, Spirit says I have to stop? No. What have you done for me lately? Oh, you took the roof off my house. Thank you. I get the hint. Why is my daughter flying across the room? Okay. All right. Skeeter,
I was argumentative. I can't help it.
You know what? You're the one of those, like my father and like me, is do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Like I used to always, someone would come in and say, hey, Corporal, somebody stole my bike. It was worth $5,000. It was a competitive mountain bike. And I'd say, oh, what's the serial number? Oh, I didn't write it down. And I'd give them that look, well, you always have to write down serial numbers. And they're like, oh, I forgot. I never wrote down a serial number in my life of anything I own. But I'll criticize you if you don't, and it gets stolen. Yeah, in fact, if I get a $5,000 mountain bike stolen and I didn't write down the serial number, I'm not going to call the police because it's just too embarrassing.
Yeah.
But that's like you. Spirit tells you something. Spirit's actually got this thing, right? Like, it's supposed to be something we pay attention to because,
yes,
it's that thing. So when you stop and you teach this, gosh darn it, you teach this crepe. You're just a nut bar. That's it. That's my lecture. That's my lecture for you, young lady. Don't make me pull this car over.
Well, believe me, I've learned not to tell them no anymore. They're like, you're going to be doing this now. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, good Lord. So, you read for yourself.
Yes.
And there it was. This is just one of the other arrows in your quiver.
Yep.
Along with
I'm
doing remote viewing for me and moving spirits on.
Yep.
I'm still completely giggling from when we did that last Saturday. That was amazing.
That was.
And for those out there who didn't listen to it, Skeeter went to a house that my paranormal team did an investigation on a couple of years ago, and actually she identified 5 spirits in the place. We crossed over 4. Well, Skeeter crossover 4. I got names on 2 of them, and off they went. And one's a bit of a lard ass who still needs to be crossed over. He's a bit of a grump, and we'll work on that. And I haven't yet phoned the client. I thought I was going to be able to do it Friday, but I couldn't, just to see how things may have been changing around the house, if there was any different feeling. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. And Skeeter and I will make an appointment. We won't do this on the air. It might go, who knows, a little sideways or something. We'll leave it up to leave that one. Because honestly, if it takes a lot of work, it's not that interesting. Because it's both of us being quiet on air, which probably, honestly, is a lot more interesting and a lot of stuff we talk about. But we'll put on a record. Remember those? Just walk away. But we'll get that thing moved on. But we will do that again. There is a paranormal group over in Victoria, British Columbia. We've got Forest. Well, we can't use Forest Moon because you're part of Forest Moon. Yeah. We'll pull in from one of our other friends outside of this area, long ways from where I am and where Skeeter's from in Washington State, and we'll do it again. We'll go into a place that was previously investigated, where only those investigators know what the inside of the building looked like, and we'll send Skeeter in to do a remote and see who's there and who needs to done it and leave. So that'll be kind of cool.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Very, very good. Very good. Very good. So psychically, this little home we have every 2 weeks on a Sunday called The Shift, what are you getting? Are you getting a good vibe that I know I'm getting a ton of really positive email on it. Absolute crazy ton. Are you?
Yeah, I am. I'm getting really good feedback on it, and I'm actually, it's not so much as the emails or the notes, which I really love. I really appreciate it, to everyone who sent them to me. But it's the actual energy itself that I feel changing around me. Okay. The fact that I actually feel the tide churning. Like I asked about our president. I asked if he's going to make it all 4 years, and I was told yes, he's very more than likely going to make the full 4 years. And we should be grateful for that, because there's something even scarier behind him.
Oh.
So the fact that the people are still standing up, they're fighting for what, they're not fighting to get him impeached, they're fighting for what they really want. They're standing up and they're fighting for women's rights, they're fighting for LGBT rights, they're fighting for their health care, they're fighting for the things that are actually important.
So what?
And that's more important than actually fighting to get rid of him.
Yeah, so what he's brought about is bringing together groups to push an agenda.
Yeah.
Where everyone was kind of lackadaisical before.
Yep.
Oh.
No, it's really funny. In a very ironic way, he promised to make America great again. And he is, because what he's doing is he's waking up the American people, and he's making us go, no, we're not doing this. We want this. And we will march, and we will stand, and we'll have our silent protests, and we'll exercise our rights and actually understand them. And we're going to do this.
And there's Skeeter out there, no taxation without representation, throwing her tea into the harbor. Yeah, it's, you're getting back to the people running or telling and having government listen, where it's been, the government's been a bulldozer just pushing through.
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, any of my American listeners, go to a town hall meeting with your representatives. even if it's a representative you don't like, especially if it's a representative that you don't like. These town hall meetings have gone from maybe 5-10 people showing up and a couple of reporters to the whole town showing up going, listen, you sold us out. We voted you in because you promised us this, this, and this, and you told us that you'd put us first and you sold us out. We need this. We need that.
Yeah.
You're seeing a revolution and it's amazing to watch this. You've got people who have never been involved in politics coming out going, you know what, I want to do this. I want to be a politician.
Well, and that's changed from the inside.
Exactly.
Because, you can have a whole bunch of people march, and it gets a lot of news. And Lord, those news people. Anyway, got to change.
But you're
the news
seeing
people.
these changes.
But, the changes are happening, and they're happening through action that isn't throwing Molotov cocktails and smashing all the windows in the street, which is just stupid. And it's, again, changes from within. So when we talk about in the shift in the previous weeks, talking about banking issues, global banking, civil unrest, and eventually something horrific geologically, these things can change.
Yeah, they can.
Because we have to come together and say, no, we're not going to put an oil pipeline through this area where people have drinking water. Or we're going to, just because there's a whole bunch of white people living in that area and First Nations living over here, why did you change? Why did it go through here? Let's really dig into it. So it's putting a magnifying glass on a lot of the crap that the government used to get away with. And I don't mean any particular government. I say the government as a whole, as a corporation, global. Looking at each individual as a something to tap for income. Kind of like that we talked about last night with privatized prisons.
Yeah.
It just, stacking person off on top of person just because they're privatized and the government pays them X amount per head. So, we can...
And they've got to keep it at a certain capacity or they pay fees.
If I was the king of the forest for one day, you wouldn't want to live in the forest. There'd be lots of criminals walking around. But but the criminals who ate a pizza and didn't pay for it and ran away.
Yeah.
Who were doing 10 years or some stupid thing. Anyway.
But back to the whole thing is you're seeing all of this change coming up and you're seeing people, this ripple effect of people wanting to take a stand. The First Nations, who are part of where these oil lines are going, they said, you know what, our own government isn't listening to us, and they've taken it to the UN. And the UN is coming back going, I think you guys need to rethink this.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got national groups. I mean, China just published a whole bunch of things about how they are switching out to green. And there was a really great article about how China is now being more proactive about going green, going renewable than the United States. And I thought that was so fantastic. I was able to confirm some of the things as true, some things I wasn't able to confirm. But just the fact that that thought process is out there, that China itself is going, you know what, if we clean up our act, and all these other countries are cleaning up their act, and now the United States is being forced into the spotlight as the ones who aren't changing.
We're coming back
and
with more from Skeeter and the Shift right after this.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm here to bring you the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for aliens and extraterrestrials, well, we've got them. Big and tall, short and small. You're bound to find what you're looking for, so join me on the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. It's time for you to make time for you.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Tonight's edition of Spaced Out Weekend is brought to you by spacedoutradio.com, where you can now sign up to become a Space Traveler member. Now, for the final time tonight, here's Spaced Out Weekend's James Tyson.
Thank you, Dave Scott. And I'm in for Dave. A couple of days in, I don't know if it's next week or the week after that. Dave's going to be in Boston at a paranormal conference. I think he's serving tables. I'm not really sure what he's up to there because he never tells me anything. But I'll be in for Dave, and he's got some good guests lined up. Rumor has it, I haven't checked the emails, but he's got me all the contact information. Tonight, we are on the shift with Skeeter Welhouse, who is no longer a seamstress. We talked about that. She actually has a shop in Tacoma, Washington now that you can go in and get a hands-on reading. Good Lord. Get your mind out of the gutter. Come on, Eric. Craig, jeepers. We want to thank everybody who's listening to us through the Spaced Out Radio Network on spacedoutradio.com. Those who are beaming us around the city of Noonan, Georgia at WQEE 99 The Key. And we welcome them to our crazy Spaced Out family. The United Public Radio Network at 107.7 in New Orleans. And their listeners in over 160 countries around this little blue spinning planet. And I hope at least 10 or 15 of those countries are English speaking, because I can barely speak English, so don't get me trying to speak another language. Those people listening to us at Radio Guide FM, TalkStream Live on Stitcher, and our friends at the High Plains Talk Radio Network in Las Vegas, Nevada, Renegade Talk Radio, and again on Spreaker. Our chat rooms are on Spreaker, are on Facebook, and it's kind of one of those secret, private, little hidden gems on Facebook. It's well, I can't tell you. It's because secret and private. No, it's the SOR, Space Travelers. It is a secret group, for goodness sakes. Ugh, not going to go there. They never invite me anywhere. And we've got our friends, let's see, we've got the Alien Hunter, we've got our friend Nick French from Texas, we've got Wyatt, and some more of our buddies over at spacedoutradio.com. If you go to spacedoutradio.com, you can listen to this show or any of the shows that went the night before up until the time the new show is on. You just have to go to the main page, the main Facebook page. What am I saying? Facebook. The main page of the website. Go up to the top left. Click on Listen Live. Yeah, it won't be live if you do it 3 or 4 hours from now, but you'll still hear the whole show. And actually, there's some people who go in there into the chat room, which will open up on there. Just sign in, and off you go. It's pretty interesting. We don't get the big questions and hard questions like we might on. Oh well. Who gives us hard questions? I don't think we get any hard questions. They say there's no stupid questions, only stupid answers. Well, you've come to the right place for stupid answers. So, with more further ado, we are going to bring you back to Skeeter Welhouse. Now, Skeeter, where is your location down in Tacoma, Washington?
I'm in the Magical Garden.
No, really. Where is it? Oh, that's the place. Okay.
That's the place. And it's just off of Commerce Street behind Mad Hat Teas in the stairwell.
Okay.
It's a lovely little place. It's only slightly haunted.
Come to find Skeeter in a stairwell in Tacoma, Washington, just behind a Mad Hatter and a tea thing. It's not down a rabbit hole. That's interesting, though. It's good that you have that. You're not doing the seamstressy anything anymore. You're putting a lot of let's see. You put a lot of little, what is it? Cheerleader teams out looking for new costumes and things now. It's
I used to do a lot of gothic costuming, a lot of fun stuff like that.
Like for Crypticon.
Yeah, like for Crypticon.
Okay. Good.
But I wow, when me and Spirit had a fight over that one, they won.
Well, describe how you would argue with the being that is. It's like a Simpsons cartoon. I keep imagining you're standing there and God comes up over a cloud and sandwiches you between the 10 Commandments or something. It's like, poof, there you go. Smarten up. I am all-knowing. Crack. Oh, it's Skeeter. No, she knows more.
No.
Okay. Yes. Just,
what it was is I've been doing the sewing. I've always done the psychic work, but I've never charged for it. And I've recently been charging for it. And with the sewing, I didn't charge enough to cover my costs because I was trying to be competitive. So I was losing money on the sewing. And I started doing more and more of the psychic and healing work to cover costs. And about the beginning of November, end of October, I purchased a little deity statue, and I looked at it and I said, "I'm in for it, aren't I?" And it said, "Yep, you are." And I said, "You're a lot of Loki energy." And it said, "Yep, you're in for it." And I said, "No, because I'm sticking with this." And everything just got ripped out from under me. I mean, everything just absolutely. And I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be sewing. That's a respectable thing. When people look at me and go, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" I can say I'm a seamstress, because being a seamstress is a normal thing. Saying that I'm a psychic medium and I talk to the dead and I can heal people is absolutely nutty, and I'm not doing this. There's no way you can make me. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting in the closet crying my eyes out. Threatening to kill myself. And God love him, my husband found me. And he asked me what's wrong. And I told him that I hated the quilt that I was having to finish. And I wanted it to catch on fire. And ironically, it did. And I had to completely replace it out of my own pocket, if that says anything.
Yeah.
And I said, fine. If I turn myself over to Spirit, if I trust you 100%, will you make this all go away? Let me finish this quilt and just move on. And Spirit said yes. And the next thing I know, the quilt is done. The lady picked it up. She loved it.
This is where me, the policeman, have to jump in. How did it catch fire?
I had it in the dryer. What it was is that I had it on a very low setting, and I had pinned it already, so there were pin marks in it. So I took a wet towel, this is something that I've done hundreds of times. I learned it when I was taking costuming back in '94, and I've done it ever since. You take a wet towel, and you put it on the lowest heat possible, and you spin it, and the fabric poofs up and resets itself so you can't see the pin marks anymore.
Okay.
There is no logical reason for this blanket to melt the way it did. So I open it up, I smell smoke, and I'm like, this is weird. And I open it up, and I pull the quilt out of the dryer, and it's hot, and it has melted into itself.
Okay.
And there's heat marks, like if you had put a iron on it, and it was just starting to toast. There is no logical reason for this to have happened. I even tested it on other blankets to see if I was crazy. And it didn't happen any other blanket, just the one that was the client's.
Just the one you said, I wish it catches fire.
Yep.
Could you do me a favor and say, I wish Jim wins the lottery?
I wish Jim would win the lottery, the big one.
Thank you. Now, the other one was, you said, very kind of matter-of-factly, and then the new quilt was done.
Yep.
Like, you did it, right? It wasn't...
What happened is my husband jumped in and my mother-in-law jumped in, and everybody in the family gathered around me. We got the new materials. We pinned it all. We stitched it all, and it was done in like hours. I have never had a quilt come together in hours.
Amazing.
Never.
You had a quilting bee.
Yeah, we had a massive quilting bee, and I was like, okay. And then the quilt left, and I'm like, I've got just a few projects left. I had some pants to hem and a shirt to fix. And the last ones went out, and I'm not kidding. I said, I'm yours. And I said, okay, if you really want me out there, I need a place to work out of. And I saw an ad for a psychic fair. Mm-hmm. And the lovely lady who owns the magical garden said, I'd love to have you at my fair. And I went and read for her, and she said, oh my God, you're amazing. And it turns out she had an office in there that the girl who was supposed to lease it didn't lease it. So it's going to become mine. Okay. And she's been letting me use the space while I get all of my stuff together. So I've been using it for free for now. So I'm there, and I give her a part of my profits. And I'm doing these bigger events, and I'm finding more people, and Spirit has been like, okay, you're mine now. And I'm like, wow, this is really weird. And I am actually introducing myself now as a psychic medium. And I told Spirit I need something that I can really hold on to. And I talked to the state about the best way to get some legal marketing, legal licensing, so I can even get some insurance and make myself more accessible to bigger crowds. And I had someone introduce me to some really great things, and the money has showed up to help cover them. And I'm honestly, I think it's interesting I had to go through all this.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it's fantastic. I never would have guessed this. And Crypticon was amazing, because when I signed up for Crypticon, I was supposed to sell my costuming and my dresses and the clothing that I make for that. And by the time it came around, this is what I'm doing. And they were like, cool, that works. Just here's your spot. There was a change in spots. The one people set up in the spot I was supposed to, but I got the better spot. And it was just freaking amazing. Good and I wish Elizabeth would have everything she wants to have happen in the most possible way, positive way possible, for the highest good of all, up to and including getting her own private island.
Oh, for crying out loud. And all the
tools and money she needs for underwater UFO hunting and doing animal communication with dolphins.
Well, that's all you need. If you've got animal communication with dolphins, send the dolphins off with a couple of notebooks and a camera, a GoPro. Getting back to positive energy. Yes. And do you still, I guess you will, you still run into a lot of naysayers. It's kind of like the what we talked about in the first hour with Elizabeth and the abductees, and what you talked about in our first hour here. In hour two, but you talked about people not wanting to come out of the alien closet, so to speak.
Yeah.
And again, that's what's being carried on on S4. at midnight on Spreaker here with Eric and Seth and the guys. They're gonna delve back into that and vent on a few people. But as a psychic and as a medium, you've got a lot of negative people, a lot of that low vibration, probably, here's me generalizing because I worked in these locations, like, smoker, drinker, renter, and just low, kind of a low vibe, kind of, I'm going to sit here and pout until either the government gives me more money or I'm not going to get a job in that place because I'm better than that. And so I'll just stay here and be unemployed. They always seem to be the bearers of the, I don't think you're real and I don't think that, and just all that stuff. And you kind of look at them and go, carry on, off you go. Yeah. We're probably not going to fix you. Do you ever run into those? Have you ever been able to? I had
a couple of them at the event.
Okay.
And I would love to share this because I had one young man in particular come up. And you could tell that he was, I'm going to prove the psychic lady wrong. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've learned is to just take these people with, you know what, I planted the seed.
Yeah.
But this guy, he sat down and he was like, okay, hit me with your best shot. And I laid it out and I'm watching him and he's not really giving me a whole lot of feedback, but his eyes have changed. His physical manner has changed. And I offer to do the cleansing for him. I offer to do the taking of negative energy and I offer to do the giving of positive energy. And this young man looks at me and he's like, okay. And I'm really happy because here it is, someone who's basically sat at my table to make a mockery of me is trusting me to do this. And you can tell at first he's not really into it until he feels what I can do. And that was the funnest part about this weekend is here I am doing something new that I've always kind of done. But here I am actually doing it, and I'm doing it person after person after person, and I get this guy in front of me, and I can feel him resisting, and then all of a sudden it clicks, and you see his eyes. And when I take all of that staticky, negative energy that was running around in his head, and I close his hands, I close his fingers around my fingers, and I go, it's mine now. I mean, you've got tears welling up in his eyes. And when I tell him, are you ready to receive love now? And he doesn't say anything. He just nods. And I give him the love. And I ask him, are you okay? And he nods. And I go, do you have any questions? And he shakes his head no. And he gets up and he walks away. And for me, here I had this guy who was ready to call me out, to make fun of me. And I just blew his mind. And you know what? I can have people pick on me, make fun of me now. I'm coming to a point where it's like, okay, this works. This is what they're supposed to do, and I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do. And I know that young man may not tell anyone, but he's not going to forget that experience. And I just changed him for life. And that's what is part of the shift, is changing people one at a time. Making people see things on a bigger level than their own small little world. So you can say whatever you want about me. You can believe whatever you want about me. But once you meet me face to face, and I tell this, you probably heard me saying it even in Oregon, you will never be the same.
Correct. Yeah. I know I wasn't, and I was pretty much a skeptic until the psychic, the first one I went into, again, my listener knows this, pulled out my mom's name, saying her name is Lexa. And I looked at her and I'm like, yeah, that's good. Pick that one out of a hat. Lexa. Yep, that's my mom.
Yeah.
And then from there on, just started nailing everything. And I'm looking at this person like, who, like, you've been following me or something? Or, how would you know my name or my mother's name was Lexa? Like, even kids in my neighborhood didn't know that. This is crazy. It's, and I don't know you from Adam. You're half the age. My mom died your life ago. So this lady was fantastic. And then got off on another tangent, which ended up me being here with you. A friend of mine is a psychic, well known in up here in Vancouver, British Columbia, and he was at one of these psychic fairs. And I'll just say one of the top 10 actors in Hollywood right now lived up here for a bit, and his wife was very much into the crystals and stuff, and she is a very, very well-known actress too. And he and his son were off in one group, and his wife was out talking to people on the other side, and it was a big location. And he looked at my buddy and said, and my buddy looked at him and said, "Yeah, would you like a reading?" And he looked at him and said, "You're the psychic. You tell me." So my buddy called him over and said, "Do you really want a reading?" And because my buddy is a bit of a, I'm not going to say hothead, but he's a big guy, and he's like, "I don't care how famous you are. I'm going to pull your sweater over your head and give you a couple of whacks." Of course, he's thinking this, but he said, okay, just very privately whispered in his ear, and he said, "You're having an affair with a brunette. You have to break that off, or your wife will find out, and it will not be good for you or your son." And Buddy, the movie star, took a step back, just stared at him, and paid him $200 and walked away.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was basically, here's the money, don't tell anybody, like, I'm out of here. And who knows? But I'll tell you who the guy is off air. Very, very famous guy. It is, but that's what you do. You kind of look at them and go, it's, like the ones that go into court or the police use to start up cases again, or you find we're looking for a body, and you find the body, and someone says, "Well, how did you find that?" "You must have been part of the murder." Really? No. Well, how did you do that? And you look at the person and say, under your bed, back in the corner, do you want me to tell you and everybody in this room what's there? And they'll look at you going, "No, that's good. No more questions, Your Honor." Leave my maid's uniform alone. That's mine. It's, you get, it's just stupid. It's like, first of all, how would you think I knew the body was there?
Yeah.
If I didn't communicate with the person who was deceased. Oh, no, it was a lucky guess because you read something in the newspaper or heard something on CNN and you put two and two together and decided this is where the body could be. And these are little old ladies who like are working in a what's the name? Rodriguez. She worked in a little post office like bodega, a little old lady, and all of a sudden it's like, "No, you're some heinous criminal who know who the murderer was." And she's like, "What? No, his ghost follows me around telling me to tell you who did it. So we're trying to find this out. You can come with me and I'll point to the guy's house or not." And she pointed to the house. Sure enough, that's where the guy was strung up and shot multiple times, and then his body was dumped miles away. But there's the skeptics who look at this little old lady and say, "Oh, she must have known, and she's from a different state, for goodness sakes, or she's from a different town, or give your head a shake." There's skeptics, and there's same with the paranormal. We're ghost hunting, and I call it ghost hunting, not paranormal investigations, where people say, "Well, I don't believe in ghosts." "Why not?" "Well, I've never seen one." "Okay. Have you ever looked for one?" "Oh, no. I'm not going to look for them because I don't believe in them." Well, that's not a skeptic. That's just a cynic. I look at them and nod and go and think some really interesting words in my head and just smile and walk away. I have no time for you, you bozo. You pull me out of a crowd and say, I don't believe in ghosts because I've never seen one, but I'll never, ever go look for one. It's like, okay, then why are we talking? Don't you have to go see a tractor pull or something? Like, hey, do you know your hat's on backwards, right? But sorry.
Well, there's just all sorts of people.
Yeah.
That, I mean, for me, I as a kid, I saw the Bigfoot, so I've never had a problem with Bigfoot. Growing up the way I was, I didn't have a problem with ghosts, but I didn't want to believe in ETs. Didn't want to believe in them. I'm like, this is totally, absolutely ridiculous. Why would anything of that intelligence want to come here? I mean, seriously, what is up with this? And, I was out, I was headed through Madrid, which is where our beloved Elizabeth lives. And as I was going down into the valley, there were a bunch of people pulled over. And I'm trying to figure out what in the world is going on. And I look up, and there is this boomerang-shaped object flying by, and it looks like it has a ball in the center. And, I mean, it looks as if someone put a stick in one of the wings, and it spun around and shot off the other way.
That's a clue. As a policeman, that's a clue.
That's a big clue.
Oh, you want to put some weight on it, do you? Okay.
But for me, I'm sitting here going, okay, and then I meet you and Dave there in Concrete, and Dave asked me, can you channel AT? And I'm thinking, oh, this is entertaining. Okay, let's see. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting in a bar with Dave, and it's channeling through me, and I'm writing what it's saying, and I'm arguing with Dave with this alien who's channeling through me. And I'm like, this is so freaking weird. I mean, unless you're willing to put yourself out there and experience it, go on a ghost tour. A real ghost tour. Go out and be a part of these groups. Don't be a cynic. Just go and be open to the experience, because you never know. I've had some serious ET experiences since then, and I'm like, okay, I believe. There is nothing that surprises me now. If like when I laid out the cards for myself and they said, you are going to be doing a lot more healing, you're going to be getting a lot more gifts, you're going to be reaching more people, you need to be open to us and available to us. And after what happened with that blanket, I'm like, yep, I'm yours.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is.
That's kind of crazy, that whole blanket thing. Yeah, but that, it's basically you need those kind of slaps in the head.
Yeah.
That's, well, when I talked to you for the first time we met, you read me and said I had some ET thing going on too.
Yeah.
And before that, I had one of those weird pictures taken with your aura, but I had two big blue things over my right shoulder. And Derek, White Sky Cloud, this psychic, walks by and goes, oh, you've got your spirit guides are ETs. And that very first psychic told me my spirit guide had never been, quote unquote, earthbound. So it all kind of came together going, oh, great. I've got a little green man or something. So, and I came into this not really, I had a ghost thing going on in my life, because I did see full on what were human walking around, and then found out later they had actually died in the car accident that I was in. So they couldn't have been walking in the hospital because they were still in the car. until the body removal came in. So I know that was a full-on ghost. And some other stuff going on as I was a policeman and gone to fatals and found bodies and things. But the whole idea of paranormal investigation was alien to me. And then Dave's got me on this, and I'm interviewing people who not only have seen a UFO, and I have them on my paranormal team, who I look at as, a good working mom, sane as sane could be, who, anyway, they start telling me about things they've seen. And it's one of those little, hey, can I tell you something? It's like a big secret. Yeah, I've just smuggled out all this Nazi gold, but don't tell anybody. I saw a UFO fly over the house, and I was the only one who saw it. I was saying, okay, great. I haven't seen one. I haven't seen a Bigfoot till I see one of these things, But once you have enough people coming to you and saying, I saw it, and this is where I saw it, this is what happened, and all those, like, the interview interrogation techniques, I'm looking at them, I'm reading reports or write-ups that they give me, and there's, you can do the main issue, trivial issue, it's like statement analysis, and it's all coming out perfect. And I'm looking at it going, yeah, this person isn't being deceitful. And there's not missing chunks here as they make stuff up. It's there's a number of like indicators that say, yeah, this person's being non-deceitful, I guess is the only way of putting it. They're not being deceitful. Therefore, I put a lot of weight on what they're saying. Were they temporarily insane? Were they high on shrooms? Don't know. They said they weren't. Well, the temporarily insane thing usually is not that temporary. So it will come and go. But my gosh, the number of people who are coming out and have been coming out in the last 5 to 10 years saying, this is what happened to me. It's incredible. It is now a lot of people are finding it more acceptable within the community in different times of community, like this kind of community, to come out and say, yeah, I saw a UFO. And you get a person like Elizabeth going, yeah, so I've been in one. It's like, whatever. Yeah, what kind were you in? I was in the Mark 15 with the, it's like, I don't know. It just had Russian writing all over it. And a map of the White House. Hey, those are more, that's more coming out. More people are coming out saying, I've seen a ghost. More people now are coming out saying, okay, this is a lot of fun, but I've seen a Bigfoot. Can you talk to me about that? And I'm like, well, I don't really know. It's like, because I haven't seen one, but I know a guy who says he's seen one. I know a lady who says she's seen one. I know an animal communicator in New Mexico who's talked to one in her wiggly ways that animal communicators do. So, can't tell you about it, but I've sure talked to a lot of people, so here's their number, here's their email, share your story. Or if you've found one lately, you can always get a hold of us at spaceoutradio.com, and Mike Schmidt is at SOR Sightlines Report. If you had an experience, fill that out, and he and his network of paranormal investigators will look into it for you to see if anybody else has picked up, anyone else saw something flying over that part of Utah on that specific time, or anyone else has seen a large hairy mammal running through, I don't know, the mall where you live. But he'll look into that stuff for you. There's a place we can share this now. It's not the people who think you're nuts. Now I look at them like, really? You think I'm crazy? I've seen crazy people. You can always tell a crazy person because, well, this is a whole other story. Anyway, Oh, I'm just thinking of the crazy people I used to have to arrest, and take to the fancy hospital.
Oh yes, the nice one.
The easiest way to tell you're not crazy is hang around with some crazy people. Like for about 10 minutes, you go, "Oh, I'm good. I thought it was a little whacked, but no, I'm good. You can let me out now." Really, you can. Hey, you can. Could you come back here? The door. I don't want to be here anymore. No, you'll have to stay. It's odd that way, though. You, on the other hand, this whole psychic thing has been going on since you were 2 years old.
Yeah.
And bumping into things. So it's not as new to you as it is to me and a few other people. Well, I know a lot of other people who this whole connection thing is connection with spirit, connection with, we'll call it aliens, connection with cryptids. It's new. It's only in the last 5 or 6 years, and it's happening really quick. It's not like we're easing into it. Okay, I can read cards, and I went from reading cards to looking at somebody and then getting all the information anyway. That's freaky.
Yeah.
It's turning on and off the tap that I have to learn.
Yeah, and that's why I still use cards, is because I use the cards as kind of like, okay, I'm open, I'm ready, and then when I put the cards away, it's telling them I'm done, I'm closed for now.
Oh, that's good.
That's how I use them now. I still kind of read them because people find comfort in you looking at a card, instead of just getting these wild, I know that you were such and such and such and such, and they're looking at you going, how the hell did you know that? Are you a stalker? But if you have the cards out, it's almost like a security blanket for them.
Yeah.
It's like a safety net.
You're getting the information from somebody else that's not really, well, you are getting it from somebody else, but it's more, as you explain it, it's more obvious.
Yeah.
Oh, the cards told you that? And you're going, yeah, that's right. The cards told me that.
Yeah.
Ignore the tracking device in your pocket. The what? Okay. Sorry.
But those are little things that you pick up. I mean, every psychic, not all psychics, not all mediums work the same way. And that's one thing that people need to understand. I mean, just because I'm a psychic medium doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to work for the police to find someone. I have found a few people, but I'm not really good at finding things. But if you need to know where your life is right now, past, present, or future, or you need to connect with this other level, I'm the one for you. Some are better at this, some are better at that. You can't make us all the same, and comparing yourself to others, you get a little insecure.
Yeah, like Marianne Morgan finds people, and finds dead people and the murderers for them. She's hired by, Casey Anthony's, the police investigating Casey Anthony, the young girl who went missing in Aruba, hired by her father. She also is very, very quick to say. I've interviewed her a couple of times, 3 times, I think, and she's very quick to say that there are people who have passed away or been murdered, and the bodies have been deposited somewhere by the bad guy, and nobody within the next 5 years is going to find them. Because it's kind of in the books that 5 years from now, somebody hiking will find them. That it's their path to come across the human remains.
Yeah.
And she's the only, I shouldn't say the only one, but she'll come out and say, no, yeah, the person was murdered by the guy over there. You're not going to find the body. The body will be found 15 years from now by a guy with a mustache. Okay, whatever. And move on. But the police investigating this going, no, come on, we got to find a body. And it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And sure enough, X amount of years go by, and then somebody stumbles across it. So the guy with the mustache finds it 15 years later, and they look back in the file, and Marianne Morgan said this was going to happen. But she finds bodies. You have a different divination. Joanna, the medium, her thing was she would a lot of time rather not look at the person she was reading for. It was on air, and once she described the person coming through to the client who phoned in, once that client said, "Oh yeah, that's my dad, my uncle, my mom," or whatever, then she moved on with the message very quickly. Where when she first started, it's like, I see a man with sombrero holding a inflatable elephant, and the client will say, "Oh yeah, my dad used to always wear a sombrero and carry an inflatable elephant, but is there anything else that can prove it's my dad?" And then she'd go off and try to find something else, like in his wallet it says it's so. No, come on, you nailed it with the sombrero and the friggin' inflatable elephant.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the message. And once the messages start coming, then they were just incredible. But that was her thing.
Yeah,
that's what she does. She's a direct channel for Uncle Fred coming through.
No, and that's cool, and you got to respect each and every one of us for what we can do. Some psychics can pull up names, and I just sit there in awe of them. I can't. If I get a name, it's amazing, and that name's going to be spot on. If I get a name, if I'm having to struggle for the name, it's hit or miss, and I'll let you know it may not be the name. And I've actually come to tell people, listen, I'm going to tell you about the person. I'll even draw you a picture of them. I'm not going to get a name.
Yeah, and the pictures, we really have to talk about those too.
Yeah.
You need some drawing lessons I'll have to give you.
Hey, I've got people that were at this event, and they, I'm sketching, and one little thing comes out. For one lady, it was the cleft I put in the chin. Mm-hmm. She's like, "Is that a cleft?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "That's him." And I said, "Good, you got it."
All right. Yeah.
And considering I'm drawing on the fly, and I'm using kind of like a sense of seeing that's similar to what a bat does, and I'm able to even draw those images.
Okay, I'll cut you some slack over that. But, I mean, it's like those velvet paintings in Tijuana. How come they all look the same with those same eyes? No. Is this the man that mugged you? It's little stick drawing.
I'll work on it. Yeah, I'll take some art classes.
Well, you need one of those police artists to come out for 4 hours like Amy does on Dead Files.
Oh, yes, I need one of those for sure.
What you saw? Yes. Really? That's gross. I'm not going to draw this again. You're weird, lady. Oh, I love Amy. But that is a cool talent to be able to see and draw. It's I'd love it if you started channeling maybe a little more Da Vinci and less Charles Schultz. But anyway,
I'm working on it.
I know it's probably
time I didn't draw at all. So the fact that I'm even drawing is an improvement.
I did a drawing at one paranormal investigation. I was sitting in a rocking chair in a kid's room, and for some reason I drew a lady but she had her left arm across her like it was in a sling. And I went outside, and Paisley Town, who's kind of gifted in that way too, is standing around where a tree had been cut down. And I got there just as someone had said, "Oh yeah," and there was a woman fell out of this tree and broke her arm. And I looked at him and said, "Her left arm?" And they all stopped and looked at me. And I was like, "Did she look like this?" And they go, "How did you know?" I said, "I have no idea. I was just kind of doodling, and for some reason I drew a picture of a lady with her left arm in a sling, and then I walked out here and you were talking about a lady falling out and breaking her arm." But, coincidence? Sure. Really? How many times do I doodle and draw a lady with a broken arm? Never. So we'll see how that goes. So
Exactly.
You sound like Dave. Exactly. Or fascinating. Those are his, like, I'm not really listening to what you're talking about, but I'm going to throw those words in.
No, I meant it.
Exactly.
No, that is. I mean, you get these images and you send them out.
Yeah, it's... Shut the front door. You are... if we completely flogged your connection to the shift from Cryptopia, Crypticon, because you had it's very interesting how you've changed. Joanna, the medium, who's only on here once a month if she makes it, because she's been very, very busy. She has gone from doing pure readings to doing life coaching.
Yeah, that's where I'm headed next. I'm moving into life coaching. In fact, Spirit even delivered the money to my door to pay for the licensing and the training so that I could do it legally. And it's really blowing me away.
Okay.
Because that was a lot of what I was doing at Crypticon, was helping people clear away a lot of the negative, helping them rev up to the positive, and for those who didn't need that, I was helping them see where they needed to get back on their paths.
Yeah, that is fascinating that you're going that way too. Because Joanna is now on, I think once a week on a radio show out of England, and all to do with coaching, life coaching, for a couple of hours. She still has her YouTube channel, which, you know, is doing well. But let's get back to somebody showing up at your door with money.
I was talking with someone about, it's funny whenever someone comes to me asking for something or needing something, or when Spirit demands something of me, I'm finding that I have to do more and more and more. And it's weird because nothing's ever come around when I've asked for it. When I ask for money for this or that, it's never happened. It's always something that happens with Spirit. Like when I had to move from New Mexico to Washington State, I didn't have the money. And this may sound absolutely horrid, but 2 people that I loved died and left us a bunch of money that was exactly what we needed to get from New Mexico to Washington State and help us clear everything out so that we could do that. And I thought it was interesting that Spirit did that. And here I am. I'm looking at the training for the life coach. And I told someone, ironically, a good friend of mine who used to be a client and is now just a fabulous friend, that, here I am again. Spirit is telling me that I need to do this, but I don't have the money for it. There's no way I can do this. And they said, how much do you need? And I told him the amount, and he said, the check's in the mail. And I said, what? And he's like, I came into some good fortune, and you're right. I help people. He says, this is what I do. You've helped me. You've helped my family. You've been guiding us. You've been helping us. The least we can do is help you continue doing this. So the check for the money plus a little bit more showed up. I was in complete tears in this phone call. And I'm now signed up to start doing the process and to also set up my office, in actual physical office, for people to come and see me. And I've never had anything like that happen except for when Spirit is involved.
Fascinating.
Logical. Flawlessly logical.
Yeah, the money just, I said, I need this, and if you really want me to do this, I need you to do this. And next thing I know, this wonderful friend is like, here it comes. No strings attached. If you can pay me back, great. If not, don't worry about it.
Yeah, that is, I gotta find a friend like that.
like I said, this is someone who I've worked with for years, and I don't even treat them like a client anymore. They're a wonderful, dear friend to me. And to see them take all the things that I've done for them and return it in this way, just it really, for me, it was Spirit going, see, stupid, this is why we want you here. This is why you need to go here, because it's going to come back around to you. And look at how you've been changing people's lives. Yeah,
and a lot of people, I don't charge people for readings. I did because I had to replace somebody at work who they were doing readings, and my friend said, "Hey, could you cover for a day?" And I went in. They were charging like $120 a reading, and I looked at her and went, "I do this for free." And I remember charging, getting a tip for $50 after the reading. That was odd. So, and she said, it's just their way of giving back. You've spent X amount of energy on it.
Yeah.
And money is energy. And it's a positive energy that comes back. Or some people say that money's fluid and actually wants to go in certain directions. So you're, by giving it, or if you break it down to what money's used for, I do this much work for this guy who provides me with this paper, and I can give this guy paper and he will give me food. So, and then he uses that paper to do something good for him. Yeah. So it should be a good thing. Anyway, unless you're blowing it on, all those things you're not supposed to be blowing it on. But
I'm with you. When I started, I didn't charge for the longest time. I've only been charging for probably the past 2-3 years. And even then, I was like, well, tip me, whatever you feel is right. Because people are going, well, I feel like I should pay you. And I'm like, well, I'll take tips. And it was anywhere from $5 to $20. And the more I felt Spirit telling me this is how you're going to be making your life, this is where we're taking you, I started going, okay, I'll charge $10 a session. And then I started charging $15 a session. I'm up to $40 for a full-on session. I'll do a light session for $20 because I still feel bad about charging.
Yeah.
But the really big stuff, I'm being told, charge the higher amount. So I have my big guns at $60. And I've got people coming up to me, like in Oregon. I had a lot of individuals come up to me and go, you need to be charging double. And I'm like, I would feel so horrid. One, I don't want to make it so that people who really need me don't have access to me. And one of the things that if you ever go to a show that I'm at, you'll notice that certain people, I don't charge. I had one young man at this show that I could not charge. I absolutely, positively, even Spirit was going behind me going, you know where he's going. If you charge him, I will whomp you. And I'm like, I'm not charging him. I do see where he's going. I cannot charge him. And also, I do what I call the one card free. Mm-hmm. And it's mostly for the people who are kind of like, oh, well, are you really a psychic? Can you? And for me, that's my way of baiting them. And I usually see them the next show, and they 9 times out of 10, I see them at the next show, and they actually do one of the smaller, cheaper readings. And I've had others criticize me for doing this because I'm taking away from the experience by not charging. For me, I need these people to believe that this is something real. And that I'm not out for the dollar. I'm not out for the money. I'm actually looking out for them. And I do more than what a psychic would do. If I feel that you need a healing in that moment, I've even taught Spirit to flip a certain card up if this person really needs a healing. And I had that card pop up 5 times at this event. And I did really deep cleansings and healings for these people because Spirit's learning, flip that card and she'll do this. And I don't charge people extra for it. It's just part of that reading.
Fascinating. That's a good thing. A very good thing.
Well, it's part of this shift. It's shifting away from what we've been taught money is and what our services. I mean, yes, I get it. Doctors go to school and they've got all their student loans, and I've got my student loans, but I'm not using my degree. Well, I am, but not directly.
Okay.
But I don't think you should be charging hundreds of thousands of dollars and making your services unavailable to people.
We'd have to say goodbye now.
Oh, goodbye.
And quickly. Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Stay tuned for S4 on Spreaker, and until then, please keep an open mind.
That's it. Let's roll. And hey! Let's be careful out there.